If you have ever found yourself finally sitting down after a long day, closing your eyes, expecting relief, only to feel a sharp pang of guilt instead, then this is for you. That moment when the world is quiet and your body begs for stillness is when the mind sometimes becomes your harshest critic. You think, I should be doing more. Someone depends on me. Time is slipping away. And the weight of all you've carried through the day seems to demand repayment, even from the meager energy left in your limbs. This is not laziness. This is the cost of high-functioning responsibility, of emotional investment that has been relentless for years. And yet, it is profoundly human. You push, you perform, you persist, and when you finally allow a pause, the guilt arrives as an intruder. It is the silent voice whispering that your value is measured in output, that to rest is to fail, to pause is to be lesser than your potential. The paradox is cruel. You have earned the right to rest, your body and mind are screaming for it, and yet you cannot grant yourself permission without fear. This hook, this exact tension, is what grips millions but remains invisible to others. The physiological roots are real. Your sympathetic nervous system, trained to remain in constant engagement, interprets stillness as threat. Cortisol lingers even after the tasks are done, muscles remain tense, the brain churns with unresolved thoughts, and so your mind punishes the pause. Let me tell you a story. A woman in her late 20s, a software developer in a demanding firm, was always the first to answer emails, the first to volunteer for extra work, and the last to leave. Her friends called her dependable, her manager lauded her diligence, her team relied on her calm efficiency. Yet on weekends, when she attempted to rest, she would feel a tight knot in her chest. She would scroll through her inbox, calculating the potential consequences of paused action. The guilt was visceral, almost tangible. Her rest was not leisure, it was negotiation with her own nervous system, a battle between physiological need and psychological constraint. She realized this guilt was a pattern, cultivated over years of internalizing the message that being productive equals being worthy. But she was not weak, she was high-functioning, empathetic, and capable, and the guilt was a reflection of the emotional density she carried, not a personal failure. Recognizing this is the first step to reclaiming balance. You can have responsibility without surrendering your peace. You can care for others without annihilating yourself. Here are strategies that, when practiced consistently, can transform rest from a source of anxiety into a source of power. First, reframe rest as essential maintenance. A machine cannot run indefinitely without service. Your body and mind require intentional pauses to operate at peak efficiency. Frame these moments as part of your productivity, not contrary to it. Second, schedule micro-rests throughout the day, labeling them explicitly on your calendar. Even 5 minutes of mindful breathing or stepping outside for a slow walk interrupts the stress feedback loop. Third, practice conscious mindfulness. When guilt arises, do not fight it, observe it, label it. This is a conditioned response, not a reflection of my value. This subtle shift interrupts the automatic cascade of self-criticism. Fourth, share your experience with a trusted confidant. Simply verbalizing your inner struggle reduces cognitive load, transforms isolation into connection, and reminds you that rest is not shameful. Fifth, engage in restorative activities that are intrinsically rewarding. Listen to music, create art, practice gentle yoga, or explore nature. These practices recalibrate the nervous system, enhance mood, and provide evidence that downtime is productive in its own right. Sixth, journal your inner dialogue. Write freely about the tension between your drive and your need for rest. Name the unconscious beliefs that fuel guilt and consciously challenge them. Over time, these practices change the brain's learned associations, teaching it that stillness is safe, restorative, and necessary. Consider the woman again. Over weeks, she integrated micro-rests into her schedule. She kept a journal and shared her experiences with a close friend. She practiced observing guilt without judgment and engaged in restorative walks in the park. Slowly, the knot in her chest loosened. She noticed clarity emerging, creativity reawakening, a subtle joy in movement without performance. She realized rest was not betrayal, it was strategy. Not weakness, it was empowerment. This pattern of guilt is shared by millions, quietly persevering, accomplishing, and performing while denying themselves the essential gift of restoration. But it does not have to dominate. Recognizing the underlying psychological patterns and physiological mechanisms allows you to intervene with intention. Your nervous system can learn a new rhythm. Your mind can recondition the belief that worth is synonymous with endless output. Rest is not a crime against your ambition. Pause is not failure. Breathing deeply, allowing stillness, honoring your need to recharge, these are acts of courage, of self-respect, and ultimately of strategic brilliance. Micro steps matter. One 5-minute mindful break, one evening without checking notifications, one conversation where you verbalize your struggle, all create cumulative impact. Each instance chips away at the habitual guilt that has accumulated over years, establishing a new pattern of sustainable energy and well-being. Awareness is central. Understanding that guilt is conditioned and that rest is biologically necessary allows intentionality to replace fear. By observing and naming the sensation, you detach it from moral judgment. By practicing restorative rituals, you fortify resilience. By sharing experience, you build social validation and support. By integrating micro-boundaries, you protect energy without shirking responsibility. When these steps are consistently applied, the tension between duty and self-care transforms into a harmonious rhythm. You remain responsible, dependable, and high-functioning while simultaneously nurturing your mind and body. The paradox resolves itself. Strength now includes softness, productivity now coexists with presence, endurance now incorporates recovery. Your guilt dissipates not through denial, but through understanding, integration, and conscious action. You reclaim rest, clarity, and emotional balance. You continue to deliver excellence to your work and your life, but now with sustainable energy, intentional focus, and self-compassion. Millions silently bear the burden of rest guilt, yet the pathway to liberation is accessible to those willing to observe, practice, and implement. Rest is not luxury. Rest is not weakness. Rest is an act of strategy, an affirmation of humanity, and a foundation for enduring impact. You deserve to rest. You deserve clarity. You deserve the freedom to recharge without fear. When you honor these needs, guilt loses its grip, replaced by empowered presence, sustainable energy, and a renewed capacity to engage with life fully. This is the mastery of high-functioning living, knowing that the most disciplined, accomplished, and compassionate version of yourself is not the one who never stops, but the one who stops wisely, recovers fully, and returns stronger, clearer, and more aligned than ever before.